Gathering voices, building worlds. The Ampliverse.
Welcome to Harry Potter and the Anxious Millennials, a show where we delve week by week into each chapter of the Harry Potter series. Welcome back.
No, I'm doing this.
Oh, then welcome me back, bitch.
Adam is just forever in host mode, y'all. He can't help it. Welcome back, Adam. Welcome back, listeners. But Adam specifically, how are you? Or would you like me to not ask you right now?
I am so ready to go to Atlanta in 2 weeks and see TXT.
You did see Yoongi recently, though. That's a huge perk.
I saw Suga from BTS, and that was incredible. He's great. I mean, he's great. But yeah, work is a lot, and I'm ready for it to not be as much.
It's your busy
soon.
Season. Spring
yes,
is your busy
spring
season
market.
at the moment.
Spring market is always wild in real estate, but we also
gosh.
moved our business to another brokerage, so we're also transitioning all of our systems, and I'm learning brand new back of house stuff, and we're going under contract on places every other day, and I'm like, okay, I get it. This is great, but let's all calm down.
Can we slow down a little bit? Well, fingers crossed that does. Like I said, I want that for you too. As I said the other day, you were like, I want things to slow down.
This is a back of the house note, but Ari and I did not even record last weekend because I was so I have no mental capacity to do anything. So
I mean, I have been thinking about you because you did say that you guys were a little overworked for even just Boys Love, not Boys Planet anymore. What's the new one?
Well, there's Boys Love Fantasy Boys, and then there's
Fantasy
Boys Love
Boys.
Boys Love.
Boys Love Boys Love and Boys Love Fantasy.
Started.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I hope they're doing okay. Just because you were busy with work, but I was like, but also.
Yeah.
This week we read chapter 14 called Percy and Padfoot. Adam, what happens in this chapter?
Harry writes a letter to Sirius, practices Quidditch with Ron, and Ron gets a letter from Percy.
Great. Yeah.
Great. That's
Well
it.
done. This was a good one. This is a very everything kind of happens
clean.
very concisely. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we start with Harry waking up in the morning after Hermione had been like, you can't write a letter to Sirius. You're not supposed to. And so Harry wakes up to go write Sirius a letter. He goes down to the common room. It's the dawn of the day. He goes down to the common room, apparently takes long enough to compose a 4-line letter that it's the actual morning now. He notes that the sun has pivoted in the room. That's how long it took him to write this 5-word letter.
It's just what?
Each letter.
That's so long.
I mean, it must be long to write with a quill. I'll say that.
Right, you're scratching. You got to dip it in the ink. Scratch again.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
And he probably has quill trauma now from his detention.
That's what it was, Adam. He had to do a breathing technique.
Yeah.
In the middle of writing the letter.
Center yourself. So he writes the letter, and then he heads off to the owlery to send it off that morning right after. And on the way, Nearly Headless Nick is like, hey, you don't want to go down that hallway because Peeves is peevesing. So he's going to try to... Apparently, Peeves wants to drop a statue on somebody, the next person that walks by. And I was like...
Just Peeves things.
But also, people can die. What are we talking about?
That's what I'm saying.
It's not just blowing spitballs at people. That's manslaughter.
But I think a lot of the stuff Peeves does sometimes, I'm like how he was in the boys' dormitory room. I was like,
yes.
No, hold on. What is this?
No.
Our children are not safe.
I remember being however old we were when the first movie came out and like being bummed that Peeves was not a character in the film. And all rereading all these books, I'm like, I'm so glad Peeves was not in these fucking movies because I would have been so annoyed anytime he showed up.
Yeah.
So he heads up to the Owlery, the long way. He's going to take the scenic route instead.
Scenic route. I feel like every route at Hogwarts is somewhat scenic, so like that's really saying something.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like,
there is no direct way to get anywhere at Hogwarts.
No.
I'm nearly positive. He gives his letter to Hedwig and watches her fly off. Then while he's like just, enjoying the morning, it's a beautiful blue sky day, gorgeous morning. He's enjoying the ambiance, enjoying the landscape of the Highlands of Scotland.
Yeah.
And then he like looks and he's like, oh, the Forbidden Forest she's glowing. And he sees this winged horse just dart up and he's like, what the fuck?
Like a giant bat horse, basically, just come out of nowhere.
A big reptilian flying horse just pops up out of the trees and then dives back in. And Harry is still fully do you think Harry thinks he's going insane and that's why he's like, I'm not gonna say anything?
That's a good question, because maybe at this point he's just like avoiding. He's in avoidant behavior right now. Like he's just like, I don't want to address it. I don't want to tell anyone. Same with like how he's like, no, I don't want to tell Dumbledore about like the Umbridge situation. He's very like, he's just, he's in his avoidant era.
The Umbridge one I can understand. Can I understand it? Sure. That one I can understand. There's a power dynamic at play, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
The winged horse, I would be like, no one sees these winged horses. Like, I would ask McGonagall and she'd be like, yeah, those are thestrals. But
remember when you were... Think back to when you were 15. Are you sure you would do that?
No, of course not.
I'm like, we would avoid like any conversation with an adult. Like even just being like, hi, hello, how are you? I'd be like, goodbye. Like, get out of there as soon as you can.
Fully.
I don't know. I mean, it makes sense that this is what he's doing when he's 15, because it's just like any uncomfortable situation, you essentially just like get out of it as soon as you can and like avoid revisiting anything like that. But I don't know, because I would come right up to you and I would be like, Adam, there's like this weird horse thingy creature thing. I don't know what it is. Like,
yes.
I mean, but we were also, we were like always talking about how Amada's house was haunted. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
To be fair, we would have talked about that stuff.
We were
casually.
Luna Lovegoods. That's who we were. So while Harry's contemplating if he's going insane or not, Cho comes into the Owlery and she's like, oh, hi, Harry.
Hiya, Harry. That is the number one greeting here, by the way. Hiya.
Hiya.
That's what everyone says.
In the UK. Oh, in the UK.
Yes. No one, at least in Wellingborough. No one says hello. No one says hi or hey. It's all hiya.
Cho comes in. She says hello. She realized that she almost forgot her mom's birthday, so she's sending off a little package to her mom for her birthday, which is very cute. I bring this up to say, we have never heard Harry give a gift to his friends for their birthday.
No.
No one in his life. Harry has never given a birthday gift in his life.
And Hermione's birthday is while they're at school, is it not? Because they go back to school September 1st. And her birthday is in September, isn't it?
I believe. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. We'd have to do some Googling. But anyway, so Cho is up there. And I had this moment of realization. And I think we've probably talked about it before, maybe. And I've just put it to the back of my mind, or maybe we've never talked about it, but it's been obvious. But I feel like I was reading this and I was like, oh, there are student owls and then there are school owls.
What? What do you mean?
There are owls that like are Hogwarts owls where you can like use those owls to send stuff. But then like students who bring their own owls, that's where they also like sleep. And I feel like
they're pet, like they're familiars.
Right.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
Hermione, if she needed to send something, she can't send Crookshanks. So she would just use like, she might use like Hedwig or something. But you'd use like a school owl. And I feel like I was like, oh, I had never put those puzzle pieces together in my brain. There's no such thing as a free lunch, but there is such a thing as a free school owl.
Also, Hermione's birthday is September 19th.
Oh,
and Ron's birthday is March 1st. So they are certainly at school together for both of their birthdays. Adam, we only hear about Harry's birthday and they are on summer vacation.
Yes, and they always send him something.
I'd be like, oh, shoot. I need to send them a card. It's summer holidays.
Yeah.
But they remember every year. Harry,
get your shit together, Carol.
get it together.
They have a little conversation and they're saying they're going to practice because they have a new keeper. She asks who the new keeper is. He tells her it's Ron. And she's like, oh, the guy who was a dick to me. That guy. Yeah. And Harry's like, yeah.
Correct. I'm glad that she didn't let it slide.
No.
Good for her.
Little asshole.
Good for her.
Filch comes in the middle of this little nice little moment that they have of just they've never had a moment truly alone to themselves. I mean, they had the moment in book 4 when he asks her out and she'd already been asked out by Cedric. But that is the last time they have had a private moment to themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
A year ago.
Yeah.
So Filch barges in on them because Crookshanks had tipped him off that Harry was going to the Owlery, which
how?
Filch is a squib, but has such a deep magical connection with this one cat, but
does what's her name? Harry's neighbor. She can talk to that must be their only magical
capability
thing they retain. Yeah, that they can have familiars.
Interesting.
Which hey, that's great. I like that idea.
Sure.
But I want a little bit more info on that.
But then he's like, I've been tipped off that you're putting in a mail order for dung bombs. It felt like she was like, I need them to be interrupted, which is fine. I get that. That's a very common trope of two people who are having a nice little moment and then you have a comedy break in.
Yeah.
But what? This didn't even make sense.
It'll make sense later.
Will it?
Mm-hmm.
Specifically about Harry ordering dung bombs?
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
I mean, not that, because he wasn't doing that, but basically why Filch said that. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll have to keep
But it
reading.
is, but I know what you're saying to an extent of that, that is weird. What? Okay.
It felt like it was out of nowhere.
There was no one. Yeah, there was no one that he interacted with in the hallway or anything other than Mrs. Norris.
Right.
And Mrs. Norris, it's just a lie, basically.
Yeah. It's just weird. But also that means we learn that you can order mail order gifts, or you can mail order things, because we have talked about this before.
He really has no excuse.
So in book 2, they could have ordered Boomslang skin. They didn't need to steal it from Snape's cupboard. They could have mail ordered Boomslang skin because Harry's got money. So
yeah, if there's one thing we know.
If there's one thing she won't let us forget, it's that Harry is rich. Mm-hmm. He's a Nepo baby.
He's literally a trust fund baby.
Yeah. That's awkward. So then they're like, well, we'll leave. And they head off. And then obviously Cho's like, I'm going this way. So he's like, bye. But it's very nice. He's very in a state of euphoria about the fact that he got to have a little conversation with Cho.
Yeah, because she called him brave. And I was like, of course you're geeking out that she called you brave because you're a Gryffindor, boo-boo. She gave him the best compliment.
Yes, I forgot to say, yes, she was like, you were very brave for standing up to Umbridge and saying the truth about how Cedric died. Even though she didn't say Cedric's name, because it's probably still too hard for her to say Cedric's name.
Yeah.
Which I understand. But yeah, he's very happy that she called him brave. Even while knowing that he was still her second choice, because Cedric was her first choice. So that's a little weird. And then, so he goes to breakfast. And Hermione has received the Daily Prophet of the day. That is what daily means. And opens it up, and she finds an article about Sirius. Apparently, they have information that he's hiding out in London.
Yes, Draco. Draco was not just making that up.
Right. So now they're like freaking out because obviously like Lucius and Draco saw him, or Lucius also saw him at Hogwarts Express.
Girl, great question. Because remember, I think it was the last chapter, maybe 2 chapters ago, where like Draco was saying this stuff. And I was like, is Lucius like writing letters to Draco, like updating him about every detail? I was like, I don't believe that. It's like Draco has all the information. And I'm like, how though?
Okay, so I had to remember, or I had to piece together the puzzle in my head. So Lucius would know. Because in my head, I was like, why? How does Lucius know that he's a dog?
Yeah.
But it's because Peter Pettigrew would have told everybody Sirius is alive.
Right,
and
yeah,
he's a dog.
because he's back with, right. Peter Pettigrew. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So then I was like, okay, that makes sense. So that's how all of the Death Eaters know. The thing that I was then I was like, then why wouldn't, if they're so ready to leak information about Sirius, because they want Sirius to be like thrown under the bus because it like takes the scent off of them basically.
Right.
Why wouldn't you like reveal that information that he's like an unregistered animagus
to the public, basically? Yeah.
Why wouldn't you tell the ministry and then they would release it to the Daily Prophet and then they would tell everybody? Like
would
that's
you
like
have to explain how you found out that information, maybe? Like, or why you didn't come forward before?
Maybe. I guess that could be it. I just was like, it seems like they would really be like, great. Love to know more.
I mean, it would be surprising that Lucius specifically doesn't like go to the minister and be like, hey, I have it on good authority.
Right.
Because he
notable sources say.
Yeah.
Harry's now worried that they know that blah, 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 because of him accompanying them to the Hogwarts Express, which she kind of feels a little guilty about. And Hermione's like, well, he shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Correct.
But, we all make mistakes and it's fine. So
he was stir crazy. He wanted to get out of the house for a
bit.
I
don't blame him. I get it. You have the ability to be a dog, and now that even apparently is going to be bad.
You can't even do that.
And they don't have a backyard for him to run around in.
He can't even run around. He can't even chase his tail outside.
Right. What's the
Inside
point?
only.
But then there's another article in the Daily Prophet about a Mr. Sturgis Podmore. Now, you may remember Mr. Sturgis Podmore because we had talked about him.
Yes.
As he was a former member of the Order of the Phoenix back when, like, the last time Voldemort was around. And he's back again. He was supposed to be the one who accompanied them to walk with Moody to King's Cross. Yeah. But, like, never showed. He did a no-call, no-show.
Yeah. This is what happened with him. I was trying to remember. I could not remember like when his name popped back up again, but it was this.
So in the Daily Prophet, it is revealed that he was arrested because they found him trying to break into the Ministry of Magic at 1 a.m. on the day before they had to go to Hogwarts. So on August 31st, he was caught at 1 a.m. Now, technically, is that August 31st at 1 a.m. or is it September 1st at 1 a.m.? That's a question I had, but
had to have been September 1st, as in it's hit 1 a.m. You're a hit like midnight on the 1st, right? So then it would have been August 1st, 1 a.m.
September 1st, yeah.
I'm sorry, September 1st, yeah.
Yeah.
1 a.m. That's my guess.
But he was found trying to break into some door, which whatever they don't specify. We can only imagine. There's many doors.
We don't know yet. We don't know what door.
We can barely imagine what department it seems to be a mystery what department we would want to get into.
Very mysterious.
So he is sentenced to Azkaban for 6 months. That's a bummer.
Yeah, and also, like, I mean, I guess there's nothing that they can do. Like, there's nothing the order can do to be like, oh, no, wait. Like,
yeah, he was, like, caught. I mean, like,
yeah.
It was, like, it's illegal. That's one's not even, like,
Yeah.
and then they lied. Like, no, he was doing that. But they knew the risk. I mean, there are risks you have to take, so. That's a puzzle piece for the puzzle that's going to come together at the end of the book. So just hold on. Put a feather in your cap.
Put a feather in your cap.
Harry and Ron decide that they're going to blow off doing homework and go do some flying practice on the Quidditch pitch before the actual Quidditch practice later that day after lunch.
Very nice, Harry. I know that this is somewhat selfish for you because you also love Quidditch, but like this was good. I was like, good. You're helping your friend before the actual practice. Good. I like this. I like that he does this.
It's Saturday, right?
Is it? It's their day off?
Because this is the day after the Quidditch tryouts, which was Friday.
Oh, okay. Wow, I had like no semblance of when this chapter was for some reason.
He had detention for that week.
Yeah.
His last detention was while the Quidditch tryouts were happening. He comes back to the common room after Umbridge and has that moment with Hermione where they're
and then
the room is celebrating Ron, and then he's like, blah, 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 blah. She says, don't write to Sirius. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go to bed. So then the next morning decides to write to Sirius. Now, my thing is weekends are 2 days, and Hermione's like, you have to do your homework today. And I'm like, then what the fuck is tomorrow for? Are we going to church all day? Like, what are we talking
Mass.
about?
All day mass.
It's very weird. I was like, because it comes back up again later at the end of the chapter where they're like, we have to finish this paper today.
Tonight.
This is one day. This chapter is 1 day of this school year. And they like have to finish it, this like essay, but class isn't until Monday. So they take it's very strange. That part didn't make sense
no,
to
you're
me.
right. It says, wow, I totally forgot. At the beginning of the chapter, it does say it's Saturday.
Yeah.
Like right away. So
it's weird. So they go to Quidditch. They go to pre-Quidditch practice, which is very nice. And Ron like saves about 75% of the shots that Harry takes, which is not perfect, but that's pretty good. That's better. And Harry makes a remark that like he's getting better as the practice continues. So can only end up getting better, which is good. So then they go to lunch. And Hermione's still like, I can't believe you're blowing off homework. Your OWLs are going to be horrendous. And they're like, okay. And then they go back for official Quidditch practice. The Slytherins are there to, call and jeer and do the Slytherin thing.
I'm sorry. Is there not an adult present? Like, where is Madam Hooch? This is like her one job.
Maybe she's part-time.
I mean, she has to be. If she's not there, there's no way that
this is not a full-time
team
position.
Would just be doing this unsupervised. No, I mean I won't even get into it. Never mind. I'll wait because I don't want to spoil anything.
This is crazy. Yeah. Well, so in regards to Madam Hooch, it has to be a part-time position because she only is there for games, and then I think only the first years have flying class.
Yeah, she does like the flying class, master class. It's not even like a course,
right?
Because we were there 1 day.
1 day, never go back. Anyway, so Angelina's being very like, we're just gonna ignore the Slytherins. It doesn't matter, whatever. Let's start out with some drills where we just toss the quaffle to each other, warm up, stuff like that. So they're on their brooms, they're up in the air, tossing the quaffle around. And Ron is like, I think just very nervous, right? We're going to give him a bit of the doubt and say he's just like he's like stage fright, basically.
Yeah.
Performance anxiety. So he has like dropped it a couple times. He had to like dive down to catch it and then like slid off his... Like it's just not... It's not what you want to see, especially when like you have a bunch of Slytherins watching you as well.
Yeah.
So they're also like catcalling, and like Malfoy is like, "Hey Potter, I guess it's been like nearly a week since you've been to the hospital wing for your scar. Is that like a new record for you?" Which is like fine. That's the standard like Malfoy making fun of Harry Potter thing. This one is crazy. Pansy Parkinson. This is I was so shocked when I read this. Okay.
This might be like one of the worst things that has ever been said in these books. I was like.
So Pansy Parkinson says, "Hey Johnson," referring to Angelina, a black character with braids. "Hey Johnson, what's with that hairstyle anyway? Why would anyone want to look like they've got worms coming out of their head?"
Literally a microaggression. This is an actual microaggression.
I was like, I had to reread it because I was like, she can't be saying what I think she's saying. But then she literally, the way it's written, let me read, I read you the line, but let me read how it's like set up. She finishes the line, "They've got worms coming out of their head." Angelina swept her long braided hair out of her face and continued calmly. So like, it's very, it is, okay. On one hand, Pansy's a shit character. So this seems, correct for her being a shit character.
And she's in Slytherin house, which is apparently the racist house.
Right.
Yeah.
People are still calling Hermione a mudblood, which is like, we've had our own conversation with what that is, and like blah 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 blah. I guess it's just, I don't want to say, I feel like these books do, I don't want to say a good job, but I would say the very 90s thing of being like, race doesn't matter, race isn't like a part of the book. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was weird to read this because I was like, this is specifically a racial comment in a book.
Yeah.
In a book series that goes out of its way to not have it goes out of its way to make sure that there is not like a racial component to the books. Like she like takes everything and makes it analogous in some other capacity. She's obviously drawing on racism, especially with like mudbloods and stuff, but it's never like Lee Jordan, like she'll reference like race in that capacity, but like it was weird to be like, there's also regular plain old Jane old prejudice happening. And I was like, oh.
I don't know if another comment like this is really said in the books, though. It's like this one specifically, and I remembered that it happened at some point in this book, but I didn't know it was going to be this chapter. But I was like,
it's like not.
There it is.
It's not great.
Yeah, Adam texted me asking if I had read it. Like, I was like, yeah, oh yeah, I made a note about that specifically.
Yeah,
it's not good.
And again, like, I just think it would have been, if Joe Rowling really truly believes in her heart that like there are good people that come out of Slytherin, and like just because people are in Slytherin doesn't mean anything. You are the person who gave us no examples of good Slytherin people in this whole book series.
Yeah.
You give us
you didn't do it right. Like
she gives us bad and good people from every other house. So it's like, oh, okay, makes sense. Like your house doesn't necessarily, except for Slytherin. She's like, everyone who's ever been a Slytherin is inherently an awful, evil, horrible person. But then like made Pottermore to be like, oh, look, you got Slytherin, and they're cunning.
And they're a good house too. We love those Slytherins. Aren't they great? Like, it's weird. It's like, you made it like this. You did. There is a great way that you could have been like, oh, you know what? Some people end up in Slytherin house, but like they're not all bad, blah, blah, blah. But she didn't do that. The only person that technically we're supposed to be like, oh, he was a good guy is Snape. And y'all already know where we stand on that. So,
and he's not a good guy.
Sorry. Yeah, like, or Regulus maybe, Sirius's brother, because he went back. But like, I don't even know if we could say that because we don't know enough
We don't know
about
him. Yeah.
No.
She gives us no character that we meet. There are 7, but there is 199 chapters in this book series. And she could have thrown in any like current Slytherin student that like ends up befriending Harry. Like that's why I think Luna's such a good character, is because like we didn't really have like a great Ravenclaw representation, but then she ends up being like a really core part of like the group in the end, in like the last couple books or whatever.
Right.
And she could have done that with a Slytherin character. Like she could have written one in. And she just doesn't. And I don't know if it's like she thinks that like Snape being in her just whatever her Snape thing is, or like Draco not actually killing Dumbledore and like kind of not being a complete and utter garbage bag by the end of the book series is
Draco,
like but like he doesn't become good. Like there's no atonement for anything he's done. Like it's weird to have never just written a Slytherin. Like it would have been, if I was writing this book series, it would have been fun at the end of the series that there's like one member of each house who like all battle together. And that's like how they overcome the like house separation as they all unify. You had so much opportunity to write any minor character in that was like a good Slytherin. She could have put
7 books.
This is
literally
this is the book where it would have happened, because like they build Dumbledore's army from a bunch of students, and she could have written one in to be like,
no, there are no Slytherins. Yeah, there's 0. There you go. That's a great point.
Okay. So after we get racism, I wrote a note that I said Ron keeps dropping the ball literally, which is funny.
Literally.
He does catch it once and then is so proud of himself for catching the quaffle that he throws it at Katie Bell so hard it hits her face and causes her to have a nosebleed.
Here we go. Here we go.
So
this
wild.
was what I was like, I don't want to mention this yet.
So then Fred and George are like, here, use this like nosebleed antidote, because they've been obviously creating the whatever, blah, blah, blah. Here, take this pill and it'll like stop. It'll congeal. They go to like, warm-ups are over, so they're gonna like actually go get like the actual snitch and the bludgers and like actually do some real practice. And Ron is like drifting over to one goalpost as he's like watching the chasers instead of like trying to stay center or like keep circling the goalposts. So Angelina stops practice and she's like, Ron, get your shit together. Also, Katie Bell is now bleeding profusely. And cut to Fred.
Where is an adult?
And Fred is literally like looking through his robes, being like, what pill did I give her? Realizing he actually gave her the wrong half of the pill.
Dun dun dun.
So then they go back and practice some more. And then finally, like, Katie Bell is losing so much blood.
Yeah,
poor
we should
Katie
be very
Bell.
Concerned.
This is not the only thing that happens to Katie Bell in this book series either, which is crazy. Poor Katie Bell.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So they end up like canceling practice because Fred and George are going to accompany Katie Bell to the hospital wing, so they've lost a chaser and both their beaters.
Because they're responsible. Because it's their fault.
Correct.
So they better help.
The 3 Weasleys all together caused this whole situation. Ron started it, and then Fred and George ended up making it worse somehow.
Of course.
It doesn't go well. The Slytherins are cackling. They're living for the entertainment.
Yeah.
Now, it would have been funny to like watch this whole situation happen, just because it seems like such like a Three Stooges type of practice. It's very like the person holding the plank of wood and like turns around and it hits the other part. Like it's very vaudeville. Okay, fine. So they go back to the common room and Hermione is like still annoyed that they're not doing their homework on a Saturday.
Yeah, Hermione, I'm not on your side for this one.
I'm not on your side.
Girl.
But then Ron is like clearly in such a bad mood that she like softens really quickly, which I was like, oh, There you go. Oh. And then she's like, how did it go? And he was like, it didn't go well. And she was like, oh no, I'm sorry. It's you're still new though, so it's gonna be okay. And he was like, I didn't say I did a bad job. And she was like, oh, you did, Ronald.
But
you did. He gets mad at her. He gets mad at her, but she's not wrong. But also she didn't know. So it was a little shady to be like, oh, so you did do a bad job.
Oh.
It was a weird moment. So then they like yell at each other, and now they're not going to work together that night on homework. So they go, cut to Harry and Ron are working on this stupid astronomy essay about the moons of Jupiter. And Hermione comes over to take a look, and she's like, Ron, half of this shit is wrong. I'm literally looking at the first, like, your introductory paragraph, and it's bad. They're like, what is this? And then he's like, if you don't want to help me, then just go in the other side of the room. And she was like, oh, Ron, there's an owl here for you. And Hermes is tapping on the window, which is Percy's owl, if we remember from the last book. I don't remember.
Did he always have Hermes?
I thought he got him. I thought he was Hermes. Errol was the family owl.
Yeah.
Was Hermes what he got when he became a prefect? And then that's why he gave Scabbers to Ron?
Yeah, must have been. So he would have always had her. Since we've known them, he would have always had.
He's just
Hermes.
I don't think he's been named. Anyway, so Hermes is like tip tip tap on the glass. They let Hermes in, and he's like, here. He has like a note. Obviously it's from Percy. It's for Ronald.
I like to imagine that he's also like very prissy, like
haughty.
Percy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like,
and then he flies off immediately. Takes off the note and is like, bye.
Yeah. I cannot associate with you any longer.
I don't need anything from you people. So I'm now going to read this entire letter because it is so fucking bonkers.
Yeah, let's do it.
Percy's such a shit character. Okay.
Yeah. It's a bummer.
Dear Ron, I have only just heard from no less a person than the Minister of Magic himself, who has it from your new teacher, Professor Umbridge, that you have become a Hogwarts prefect. I was most pleasantly surprised when I heard this news and must firstly offer my congratulations. I must admit that I have always been afraid that you would take what we might call the Fred and George route, rather than following in my footsteps, so you can imagine my feelings on hearing you have stopped flouting authority and have decided to shoulder some real responsibility.
Not really. No, he hasn't, Percy. Just so you know.
You wouldn't be impressed with how he's doing so far.
You would only be impressed with Hermione.
B, fuck off with the Fred and George comment. C,
you
aren't the first one in your household to be a prefect. How is it following in your footsteps?
I was like, I'm sorry, Bill was the first.
Right.
Do not
Asshole.
forget. He doesn't even mention, like, he doesn't say, like, Bill and I's footsteps, or he doesn't even say that.
No.
He doesn't even mention Bill.
But I want to give you more than congratulations. Ron, I want to give you some advice, which is why I am sending this at night rather than by the usual morning post. Hopefully you will be able to read this away from prying eyes and avoid awkward questions.
Yeah, right.
From something the minister let slip when telling me you are now a prefect, I gather that you are still seeing a lot of Harry Potter. I must tell you, Ron, that nothing could put you in danger of losing your badge more than continued fraternization with that boy. Who cares? Fuck off. A badge? The prefect badge is more important than like a friendship? That's so stupid. But that tells you a lot about what his values are.
I mean, I don't think we ever hear about Percy having friends other than his girlfriend, Penelope. Like, we don't hear about him.
Right.
Yeah, we don't ever hear about him with his friends. He's always by himself.
Cut from the movies, Penelope Clearwater. Cut.
Yeah, no, there was like a brief mention of her in book 2, but we never see her face.
The Penelope Clearwater erasure.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes, I am sure you are surprised to hear this. No doubt you will say that Potter has always been Dumbledore's favorite, but I feel bound to tell you that Dumbledore may not be in charge at Hogwarts much longer, and the people who count have a very different, and probably more accurate, view of Potter's behavior. I shall say no more here, but if you look at the Daily Prophet tomorrow, you will get a good idea of the way the wind is blowing, and see if you can spot yours truly. Percy's gay. I'm going to say Percy is canonically gay. This feels very gay energy to me. I don't like saying that, but like, that's what it's giving. Seriously, Ron, you do not want to be tarred with the same brush as Potter. It could be very damaging to your future prospects. And I am talking here about life after school, too. As you must be aware, given that our father escorted him to court. I didn't like the way he phrased that. Potter had a disciplinary hearing this summer in front of the whole Wizengamot, and he did not come out of it looking too good. He got off on a mere technicality, if you ask me, and many of the people I've spoken to remain convinced of his guilt.
Ugh.
What technicality did he get off on? The fact that he did it out of self-defense? That was the technicality? Technicality was he...
just the vote. The people voted.
Yeah.
Like, voted in his favor. That's the technicality.
Jesus. It may be that you are afraid to sever ties with Potter. I know that he can be unbalanced and, for all I know, violent.
What?
Well, you have to remember he did murder a man his first year at Hogwarts.
Right, Quirrell.
The thing that's crazy to me about this whole situation is... He knows he was a prefect their second year at Hogwarts. So he would have had more information about what happened in the Chamber of Secrets than most other students. Prefects would. I feel like. Yeah. There would have been a debrief of some degree. He's also the brother of the sister of the girl who was trapped in the Chamber of Secrets that Harry rescued and saved. So I'm very confused by this whole, like, he's a bad person. Even if you were like, I think he's gone crazy, or I think what really I think most people think is like Harry just really wants attention. Mm-hmm. And that's whatever. I still feel like you, at the depths of who you are, would be like, but he did literally save my sister from death.
I mean, you would hope. You would hope.
And helped wake my girlfriend back up or something.
Yeah, yeah. My petrified girlfriend. He also helped.
My girlfriend, who was obviously a beard. But if you have,
with a name like Penelope Clearwater, that sounds like a beard.
That's not a real girl. That's not real. But if you have
any, my girlfriend from camp.
Yes.
You know.
But if you have any worries about this or have spotted anything else in Potter's behavior that is troubling you, I urge you to speak to Dolores Umbridge, a truly delightful woman who I know will be only too happy to advise you.
Red flag.
In what world is she a delightful woman?
Are we talking about the same person?
Dolores Umbridge is delightful?
You're talking about that toad?
It was weird to use the term delightful because I would be like super professional, like very above board,
business oriented,
right,
yeah,
things like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, yeah, that's delightful. Delightful is the term you use for like the theater teacher you like a lot. Like that's the delightful person in your life. Pepperoni sprout.
Pepperoni is delightful.
This letter is so long. I can only imagine how long this scroll is.
Oh.
This leads me to my other bit of advice. As I have hinted above, Dumbledore's regime at Hogwarts may soon be over. Your loyalty... Think about this. Percy Weasley is 19 years old writing this letter.
Yeah, he's like fully brainwashed by the ministry.
Truly.
Like he's just...
The confidence one has to have as a cis white man to write this letter. My God.
because you just don't know any better. Like, you really don't. You just think you'd have all the answers and the ministry is at your, like, is behind you, basically.
Totally. Your loyalty, Ron, should be not to him, Dumbledore, but to the school and the ministry. I am very sorry to hear that so far, Professor Umbridge is encountering very little cooperation from staff as she strives to make those necessary changes within Hogwarts that the ministry so ardently desires. Although she should find this easier from next week. Again, see the Daily Prophet tomorrow.
He's so obnoxious. He is so obnoxious. It's so annoying.
It's so annoying. I shall say only this. A student who shows himself willing to help Professor Umbridge now may be very well placed for head boyship in a couple years. I don't like boyship. I understand that would be how you would write that, but like that is horrible. Head boyship and
like
head
boyship.
girlship. That's we got to figure out a new way to say that because that is bad news bears.
Oh, that's so funny.
I am sorry that I was unable to see more of you over the This is when it gets like,
yeah, I know.
It's going to get real bad in a second. I am sorry that I was unable to see more of you over the summer. It pains me to criticize our parents, but I am afraid I can no longer live under their roof while they maintain mixed up with the dangerous crowd around Dumbledore. If you are writing to Mother at any point, you might tell her that a certain Sturgis Podmore, who is a great friend of Dumbledore's... Why does he write like Trump talks?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right.
It's weird.
Oh, my God.
He's a great friend of Dumbledore's. Has recently been sent to Azkaban for trespass at the ministry. Perhaps that will open their eyes to the kind of petty criminals with whom they are currently rubbing shoulders. I count myself very lucky to have escaped the stigma of association with such people. Now, does he mean... Now, this is the question. When he says such people, does he mean the people around Dumbledore, or does he mean the rest, like his parents? Like, does he mean the Weasleys?
Oh, I just thought it was like Dumbledore's people, but that would be even worse if he's talking about his own family. Ick.
The minister could not have been more gracious to me, and I do hope Ron... Well, this is why I say that line about the family, because his next line is, I do hope, Ron, that you will not allow family ties to blind you to the misguided nature of our parents' beliefs and actions either. He's such an asshole.
Throw him out.
I sincerely
into the
hope
garbage.
I sincerely hope that in time they will realize how mistaken they were, and I shall, of course, be ready to accept a full apology when that day comes.
Yeah. Blech. Blech.
Please think over what I have said most carefully, particularly the bit about Harry Potter, and congratulations again on becoming prefect, your brother Percy.
So, you know how we've talked about, like, Ernie is described as pompous? This is a great example of what pompous actually is. Like, this is what it sounds like. This is what if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck. But, like,
it's Anitra.
I'm like, you need to... It's Anitra. But I'm like, if you're going to describe a character, like, this is such a good example of, like, wow, this is why Percy is, like, a nightmare to be around.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like,
100%.
oh, yeah, he's trash. Like, fully trash. He's in his trash era at this point.
Yeah.
Trash era for Percy. It's bad. That letter is, like...
So after reading the letter, have we said everything we need to say about the letter? The letter's bad. It's a bad letter. It's not great. Hermione, I think, feels bad, so she offers to correct their homework for them. Whatever. Fine.
I don't like this.
I didn't like it. Especially when I was like, again, it's Saturday night. This is not
They can do it tomorrow.
Monday. Like, what are we doing?
What's happening on Sunday? Are we ever going to find out?
What's happening on
in the next
Sunday?
chapter.
So Harry's like, Ron and Hermione are having this conversation where she's like, I'm fixing your mistakes or whatever. Harry, you only had this one thing wrong. You said that a planet, you must have misheard Professor Sinistra. She was like, the moon is covered in ice, not mice, which is what you wrote down, which is very funny.
Moon covered in mice.
Meanwhile,
out.
that doesn't even make sense, Harry. You
Moon
really
mice,
wrote that?
Adam, moon mice.
God. Meanwhile, Harry is like staring at the fireplace because he thinks he saw something in the fire. And then they realize that Sirius is back in the fire just like last year. And they're like, "What are we doing?" And Sirius is like, "Oh, I've been checking in like once an hour to see when you guys were alone because I want to talk to you about the letter that you sent or whatever." Apparently he already got the letter, which is great. But he wanted to talk about the letter, but he's been checking to see when the room was clear, and he thinks like a first year saw him, but he was like, "Oh, I'm sure she thought it was a trick of her imagination or whatever."
Yeah.
Seriously, you're not doing a very good job at being like inconspicuous. You can't. What are you doing anyway?
He's a little off the rails.
Off the rails. So they have this conversation about Harry's scar and how it hurt. And Sirius makes a good point that because like Voldemort like is back, his scar probably will just hurt more in general because Voldemort obviously has more power in a corporeal form than he did as like a sack of bones, like whatever the hell he was last year.
A skeletal fetus, basically.
A skeletal fetus. And then he says...
No, wait, you know what it was, Adam? A smoke. He was a smoke.
He was a smoke. Never forget that he was a smoke. And so he says that... I really like this line where Harry's like, I think Umbridge could be like a Death Eater. And Sirius is like, she is literally not a Death Eater. And then he says, the world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. Which I think is like it's a great line. It's very important to remember.
Wait. I don't know what I'm trying to say. JK would have us believe otherwise. But Sirius is right.
So, Umbridge actually apparently drafted werewolf legislation like 2 years ago, which would have been around the same time that everything was happening at Hogwarts with werewolves. Yeah. So I wonder if that's something. It had something to, anyway. And also recently wanted merpeople rounded up and tagged. So hates half-breed people.
Yeah.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into probably, I think, a bit more again in this book. People being half human.
Yep.
Speaking of people who are half human, they ask him about Hagrid.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And he's like, we think he's fine. And they're like, what the fuck does that mean?
Don't worry about Hagrid. He's all right. He'll be okay.
And basically what happened was they left the giant camp, is what we can assume, and they were supposed to come back home, him and Madame Maxime, but then they got split up. Madame Maxime is back, apparently.
Yeah.
But Hagrid's just missing. And no one's worried. That's the weirdest part about this whole thing.
Everyone thinks it's fine.
The other thing, too, that doesn't make sense about this is Hagrid is a big man. How does a big man go missing?
That makes no sense.
Okay. Fudge thinks that Dumbledore is creating a private army, and that's why magic has become a theoretical subject in Umbridge's class, because he doesn't want them trained in combat.
Fear-based mindset.
He thinks Dumbledore is going to stage a coup. That is literally what he thinks.
Literally, Adam.
Yeah. And then this is the worst part of this interaction with Sirius, and this is why Molly was right back in like chapter.
Yeah.
Chapter 5.
Was an ick. This was an ick moment.
Sirius is like, if you want, I can like come up to Hogsmeade basically as Snuffles. Is basically what he like suggests. He's like, I'd like to see you.
Yeah.
And Harry and Ron and Hermione are like, that's a bad idea. They know you're in London. And he's like, LOL. There's always rumors.
LOL,
blah,
yeah.
blah.
LOL.
And he's like, it'll be fine. And Harry's like, no, I really think that's a bad idea. And then Sirius says, and I quote, "You're less like your father than I thought. The risk would have been what made it fun for James." And then is like, "So I guess I'll let you know when I can do this fireplace situation again, unless you think it's too much of a risk," and then like leaves. You're a grown man.
Yeah,
and I get that you may have
bad.
been stunted because you spent a shit ton of time in Azkaban, but like literally grow up. You are talking to a 15-year-old as if you are 15 as well, and you are truly like 34.
Yeah. And also, you know that this is your best friend's son, and your role in this kid's life is godfather. So like, you need to be an adult.
Because if he loses you, who does he have left?
Ron and Hermione. That's it, girl. Hagrid. And Hagrid's not here right now.
Just like don't do that. Let's not do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was bad. I was like, it was just the fact that he made a point to be like, "You're less like your father than I thought." I was like, wow, you really just gotta like get a dig in there, bro, for no reason.
But also like, of course he is. He's not.
Well, his dad's
he's
dead.
not his father, right?
Yeah.
In what, you know how I'm not like my father? I'm alive.
Yeah. I'm
Also,
worried
like,
about you getting hurt because guess what? My parents aren't here anymore.
I hate that it's so much that and not like, you're more like Lily than you are like James.
Cool. Sounds great. Thank you. What a compliment.
I hate this.
Like,
It's so stupid. And that's all. That's the whole chapter.
yeah. And we end the chapter on that note. Well, that wraps up this chapter. Next week, we'll be reading chapter 15, The Hogwarts High Inquisitor. I wonder who that could be.
I think it's Percy.
It's obviously Peeves. You think it's Percy?
Yeah, it's Percy.
It must be Percy. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you find your podcasts, as well as video versions on the Ampliverse YouTube channel and Spotify. As always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so that we can get a perfect Newt score, or else... What's a good one for this? Or else you'll have to play a sport in front of like your school bullies and just like be really bad at said sport. That's the best. It's the best I've got.
You'll have an uncontrollable nosebleed.
Oh, yeah, that one's better. Yeah, you'll have an uncontrollable nosebleed, and one of your friends will actually make it worse when they tell you they're going to make it better. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HBAnxious or YouTube and TikTok at the Ampliverse. We are hosted on Spotify for podcasters, so thank you to them. And we are a proud member of the Ampliverse. Check them out at theampliverse.com. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you, Ari.
And as always, Knox.